Bobby Mascia, if you don't know him, look him up. He dropped out of Wall Street to found his own business, serial entrepreneur, operates with billionaires on a daily basis. And so you're going to take a lot from this podcast. But one thing specifically that I want to point out is one of his last messages, and it's to say yes more in your 20s, which is crazy coming from someone who's at the top of the mountain right now and who's so locked in and so disciplined during that time. But he wished he would have said yes more. And to find out what he wanted to say yes to, stick around and watch.
So I just want to start off with the worst possible thing we could possibly start off with. And you mentioned that you went through a lot of shit. So I assume you've been through a lot of shit, because usually when people create something lasting and good, they hit rock bottom a couple times. So when I say been through a lot of shit and the term rock bottom, take me to the first experience in your life.
You know what? The first experience, rock bottom, is there's a few. I think my story, and I'll just take it in a quick version. You could ask me questions wherever you want, but I started my career on Wall Street. Like, I wanted to be an investment banker, mergers and acquisitions.
What was the firm?
What's that?
What was the firm?
I was with a couple of firms early on. I was with a consulting firm up in Boston, and then I was with a financial firm in Manhattan. I was going for my MBA. I was taking my CFA. Within, I don't know, I would say 9/11 happened. A few months later, my mother went in for open heart surgery. 18 months later, my dad went in for open heart surgery. And I ended up doing the one thing that I promised myself I would never do, which is getting involved in the family business. And there's a whole story on how my dad kind of cajoled me into it. And, there's some humor behind that. But when I got into the family business, it was with the intent that he and I were going to do something different than what he was doing. And over the first 2 or 3 years, everything kind of came back to the middle, because at the time I was a little mad about it, but looking back and reflecting, it was just naturally hard for my father to run two different organizations with two groups of kind of partners and leadership. And so that's where we ended up. And then 9 years that I spent in the business, it took about 2 years of conversing with my dad to try to figure out how my exit was going to happen. But I left. And that was a rock bottom moment for me, because I was miserable. My wife, we had just had our second child. And my wife said to me, "Why the hell are you doing this? You're smart, you're ambitious, you're killing yourself, you're miserable, you don't get along with your dad anymore. Why are you doing this?" And the reality is, I was part of his failed succession plan. So I always thought it was going to be dad. I always knew it was dad's business. I never really, I never envisioned that this was always going to be my path. So that was made it a little bit easier for me to go, you know what? I'm going to go on my own. And at the time, if you think about it, my dad paid for college. I'm his kid. And working for him, I was like indentured servant. I didn't get paid a ton of money. I was a partner, but I didn't, it was always with the carrot and the stick of the future.
Yeah.
He was the guy who financed it. So rightfully so, guy who sits at the top, he's the top. So when I left, I didn't have a pot of money that I was sitting on where I can go, let me go start a business and this is going to be great. And I've got all the runway I need. I had nothing. And what I did notice with working with a lot of business owners was that they didn't know how to really put together their business plan with how they spent money, how they used money. They had a lot of questions, because I was doing some consulting toward the end of multi-unit management and how do you build an organization? How do you put together an infrastructure? And everything that I was talking to them was everything that I was trying to do over in my family business.
Yeah.
But my dad was really old school, and it was his business, his way. So I jumped into advisory. I got all my licenses. I cut my teeth. I got my designations. I started to build my book of business, and I hated being with the larger institutions. So I left. I opened up Green Ridge, and in that whole process, I was in multiple six-figure debt that I had to pay. I paid back over time. It was a beautiful time of 0% interest. So it wasn't, thank God interest wasn't accumulating. So I tried to use that really methodically to help to grow the business. And those years of accumulating debt and knowing that I just had to be confident in my ability to make this work, that was tough. That was, I mean, my wife was like, do we have to move to a condo and sell the house? And I was like, absolutely not. Not only are we not going to do that, we're going to do an addition on the house. We're going to do everything that we wanted to do when we bought this house. Prior to me leaving, you just got to give me some time.
So you were feeling stuck. You took a huge leap of faith. A lot of my audience right now is, I would say, people in college, but also like young professionals and adults, like just graduated. And I was just in a situation where I just graduated in May. I quit my job, or I graduated, moved to New York City, was ripping cold calls, and this is literally my job. It was like cold calling all day. But I've poured my heart and soul into content and media, and I just quit my job in like the last week of December, and parents were not happy. People are like, what the hell are you doing? This is the dumbest thing ever. Whatever. I knew it wasn't right, and I needed to make that jump. And so where I'm trying to get with this is, after I made the jump, I have a lot of people in my DMs saying, I feel really stuck right now. Like, I have no purpose. I don't know what the F I should do. But it seems like you were in that position too. So like, if you had to relay a message to those people, what would you say?
Well, I would say, okay, you did a lot of cold calling.
Yeah.
What's one of the things that makes you successful in cold calling?
Never giving up and not taking no for an answer.
But what is it really that when you get that no, what happens to most people when they hear that no? Most people.
Okay, thank you. Bye. It's a fear. It's embarrassment. That's what it is. It's like your ego is being attacked. You're inferior. This sucks. I want to hang up and get out of here.
That's right. And it's uncomfortable.
Yes.
And nobody likes to hear no, and still feel like I got to keep going. You know, sometimes it's really doing something that's uncomfortable. You know, when you're going to make those calls yourself, the likelihood of you getting a success is low, but when you get the successes, it's going to pay off. You've got to keep that mindset of like, where all of these things that I need to get into that discomfort and I need to commit myself to getting to where I have to go. What does that look like for me? How do I live in that discomfort? And it's about just keeping that discipline. And the first step is always the hardest, right? You make that first phone call, you're ready to die. You think of I got to prepare for this. I got to do this. I got to make sure, you know what, is the temperature right? You know what, I'm a little, maybe I'm going to make a phone call better if I have a little food. Oh, you know what, that made me a little tired. Let me go get another cup of coffee.
Yeah.
It's like the book, where you have to eat the frog, right? Just do the hard things first. And everybody procrastinates. Most people procrastinate to doing the hard thing. And sometimes you just have to do the hard thing, because once you pick up that phone and you start making the phone calls and you start figuring out how to have fun with it, it's not that bad. You're not going to die. Right. It's not going to kill you.
That's actually, that's an interesting point. So I have a mindset coach, and the other day it was Wednesday. I had a very big phone call that like could change my life if something like this would work. And I was tripping so much before this call, like freaking out in my head, whatever. My mindset coach called me, and he was telling me the story when he was in, I don't know, he was traveling somewhere and he was at a club, and him and his friend have this thing. And they're like, anytime we see an attractive girl at a club, any club we go to, and if she's a 10, if we see her and we spot her, we have to go talk to this girl. And so my coach is like, all right, I see her. And the friend's like, go talk to her. The issue was, this girl was at a table surrounded by Russians. This girl doesn't speak English, and he has to like go through all this stuff to get to this girl. And he's like, I don't know if I can do this. I'm freaking out. This looks horrible.
Wait. When you say Russians,
yes,
mix of men and women, or was it like a barrier of Russian men?
Big Russian man. He's like saying like 6'5", 200 some pounds. And then there's these girls at the back of the table. So you got it all right there. And he has to walk up to this table and try to go talk to this girl. And what he was telling me is what helped him is he just keeps repeating himself. He takes the first step and then he says, I'm already dead. Takes the next step, I'm already dead. I'm dead. It doesn't matter. I'm dead. Because he was saying, because all our fear is and anxiety is attached to the concept of death. Because it goes back to tribal, you're being ostracized, whatever it is you're going to die. And so his big advice was like, no matter what you do, just keep telling yourself, I'm dead, I'm dead, I'm dead, and just take action.
Yeah, you know, and it's interesting too, because I think just one minute. I think if you look at that scenario, it's also a multi-phase process, because it's not just being able to have the gall to go up to the woman and have a conversation, whether or not she speaks English or not, and you need a translator. It's how do you get through the barriers that are stopping you from where you are and where you need to be.
Right.
And life is about building your network. It's about building your community. It's also about showing up as you and not this like fictitious you. So how much easier would it be if you started to eye up now the big guys, and you found out that like, oh, he's got a tattoo and you have a tattoo, or he's got a nice watch on and you're a watch guy, or like, dude, those shoes are banging, man. How'd you end up here? And then all of a sudden you become buddies with him, and then you work your way to the back. Hey, can I go back? Yeah, let me, you know what? Let me introduce you to her, because who knows? You never know what's going to be around the corner when you meet the next person that you start to build a relationship with. So, you know, in those circumstances, barriers are just opportunities for you to create a new strategy, new relationships, and figure out a way to kind of do something that most people aren't even going to take the first step,
Right.
because all they're going to think of is, I'm dead.
Would you say you strike me as the type of guy that's pretty good at networking? Would you say you're good at networking?
That's how I built my entire world.
Okay. Yeah. So walk me through the start of that. Especially just for a young person in their 20s who's really looking to get better at this skill.
So I sucked at it. Honestly, I sucked at it. I didn't know the value. Nobody told me that it was something that was going to be important. I went through college. I had my buddies, but I didn't network through college to see like who would be people that I would want to hitch myself to, because as they started to go up whatever ladder they were going, and I started going up whatever ladder I was going, we could probably have some mutual beneficial help to one another. That never was a calculus in my engaging with anybody as an early adult, or even an aged adolescent. I didn't figure that out really until I got into I got into this business. Even leaving my family business, I don't think I realized the importance of a network. And when I started to kind of figure things out, it's hard when you're desperate. And when you're building something, you have to act like you're not desperate. There's got to be, you can't be cocky, right? You can't, it's not always like be the person you want to be. You got to be humble. You've got to be real. But, there is a period where you're like, I need to figure this out, and I don't really know how to. And I didn't have a lot to offer people when I was making, kind of like young guys, right? You're young, you don't have a lot. I don't know what I have to offer. And what I realized that it's not necessarily what I'm going to be giving them necessarily. It's what I can do for them. How can I help them? How can I make their life or their path through life a little less resistant? Is it through me making another introduction of somebody else? Is it through me helping them with something that they're doing from a marketing standpoint? Is it me doing something pro bono to help them with their finances or their business, or like, what is it that I can give? Once I started to have that give mentality, instead of what is it going to do for me, it's how can I help other people? That's when all of a sudden my networking really had purpose behind it. And I guess the authenticity kind of came through to people, because I really believe that give. And then all of a sudden, karma, just the laws of attraction, people started to give to me. And, we didn't go into it with reciprocity in mind. You always hope that there's some sort of somehow the world is going to pay you back in some form or another.
Yeah.
But I think you just kind of go and you're like, hey, listen, there's going to be people that I give to that I'm never going to get from. But you know what? As long as I get them a little bit further, this is not a zero-sum game. If they win, I don't lose. Like if they win, awesome. And you know what? The more they win, maybe that presents another opportunity for me to win somewhere else, or maybe it doesn't. But if I go into it just being like, hey, listen, I want you to end up in a better place than where you are today by meeting me. And if I make that impact on you and that's it, awesome.
So early days, like building out your wealth planning firm, like you don't have much to offer, but you're starting to understand you need to give. And I got friends that'll work at Northwestern Mutual and they'll reach out. And when I get a text from Jimmy, who I haven't spoke to in 4 years, hey, Anthony, let's talk. I'm like, bro, I know what you're about to do. Like it's a very, very tough job. Like a really tough job. So I'm
brutal.
It's bad. Like, I would never want to do that. But from someone who has built something from networking where people see it as transactional. I'm sure when you reach out, people are like, oh, of course, Bobby wants to do this. He wants to manage my money. He wants to help this. Whatever, let me get on a phone. But in the early days, bootstrapping, trying to gain clientele networking, like really walk me through what that looked like and how you approached people.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And like I said, you get a little desperate and you are reaching out to people and you are saying, hey, let's have a conversation. I just want to tell you what I'm doing. You know, I'm not sure if it may, I love to kind of catch up and hear what it is you're doing. And then maybe there's a way that we can work together or I can help you out or, it should be good to just reconnect. And when you go into those conversations, if you're the one who's just talking about what it is that you're doing, yeah, you're transactional, man. You're trying to sell something. But it's okay to want to have a lunch or have a coffee or have a conversation with someone and catch up and get to learn a little bit about what it is that they're doing. But be more interested and less interesting. Nobody gives a shit about what it is that you're doing, but they really want to tell you about what it is that they're doing.
True.
And when you could break down that barrier where they go like, oh my God, I feel like I've been talking this whole time. Like we need to catch up on what it is that you're doing. You know what? It doesn't matter. I'm so glad to hear your story. Now, meeting 2, meeting 3, meeting 4, catching up for a drink, going out to a club. Now it becomes normal course of just life. And that takes, it's like your cold calls. Your first cold call isn't awesome. Your 50th cold call isn't awesome.
Yeah.
But by the time you make 1,000 and 2,000 and 3,000, it doesn't even sound like a cold call anymore. So, yeah, you're going to make mistakes. But the more you are afraid and scared of your mistakes, the slower it's going to get, the slower it's going to be for you to get to that 1,000, 2,000, 3,000.
Do you have any good examples of like getting clientele? So this could be maybe your first one in the game that had to be played, or maybe like this really big one that you got. And then I don't want to say game and it's like, oh, it's game transactional, but have any stories with kind of like how you kept that relationship warm to end up getting business?
So when I started in my career, here in this world of finance, or the second version of this world of finance, I was very transactional. And that was because the firms that I was working for were very transactional firms, not too dissimilar from the Northwestern guy, the Merrill Lynch guys, the UBS guys who just kind of call up and I want to manage your money. I want to sell you insurance. I want to, I have something that you need to buy from me. And what I found is people don't like no, and they just stop. My successes didn't come from consistently badgering people, being like, buy from me, buy from me, buy from me. My success came from, hey, listen, this is a process. I don't expect for you. I'm not expecting for you to buy. Let me find out what it is that you really need or want, or is this even a fit of why should we be talking? And the more you're checking in with that, I would say purpose, the less it becomes like, oh, this guy's a fucking annoying salesperson that just keeps calling me.
What do you mean by that? Checking in with purpose.
Have a reason for the call. So, hey, I was on Facebook. I saw that you just did this. You tell me about it. What's going on? Yeah. And they'll say, I know I haven't gotten back to you yet. More at some point in the conversation, I know I owe you a call. Hey, listen, I'm just calling to create a relationship with you. Hopefully at some point we decide that this makes sense, or maybe it doesn't. But if it doesn't make sense, just let me know. I still will make these phone calls because I still enjoy your company.
Oh.
But then we can just kind of take it off the table of, is this a sales call or not? But if this is something you're interested in, then you take the time that you need to process. Let me help you make your way through that processing time, and let's figure this out together. Most people give up. They hear the no, or they don't get the phone call back, or they make the email, they send out an email, they don't even pick up the phone, and they kind of just move on to the next. And that transactional mentality is, you have to have a lot of energy to go through that.
Well, so do you think it's you just got out of the transactional mindset, or you reframed your identity as someone with high self-esteem, high self-belief, and high self-confidence? Because the rejection aspect of it, like when you gave that example of cold calling, it hurts yourself inside, and you're like, I don't want to feel that again. And especially when you're in the business, because I assume a lot of people you're reaching out to are warm leads, meaning friends in the past or family friends, or especially at the start. That's got to be the hardest thing, because you don't want to wreck that relationship at all. You got to tell me what that's like. How do you reach out to those types of people?
So it sounds like two questions, right? So I left the transactional business, and when I started my firm, we're fee only. So we don't sell any products. We sell ourselves. We're an advisory service. So, although I made all the leadership boards, I went on the trips, I made freshman 5, and, I sold. I hated it. I wanted to be an advisor. I got really good at what I do. I started to be able to talk with confidence because I knew what the hell I was talking about. And it's funny how when you have that confidence, people read it and they want to understand what it is that you're doing. So you had mentioned like the cold call. Yeah, cold calls suck if you really don't know what you're cold calling about. If you're given a script and you're like, hi, this is Bobby. I'm calling because I was curious if you were interested in refinancing your mortgage. That's a rinse and repeat thing. Like you could say that over and over again. You're going to get the click. You're going to get the no. But if you could turn it into a conversation of, hey, I know you're not expecting my call and you probably want to hang up. And after 30 seconds, I encourage you to do it if it doesn't sound interesting. Is that fair? Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. And they get a little chuckle or something like that. And you go, hey, listen, when you get that bill, does it suck? Or you feel like you're FOMO, missing out on something? Like you have to kind of find out what it is that gets them interested in what it is that you're talking about.
Yeah.
And then get them to open up. And then you could have a conversation. But if you're just following a routine and you're not becoming an expert, you're not increasing your skill set and understanding what it is you do and how you do it, because it's like objections. You learn objections and you learn how to counter objections. And all of a sudden, it just becomes a normal course of how you talk if you practice it. And I think that's general in life. I mean, if you attack everything without any preparation, well, you're not really increasing your skill set of anything. Communication skills, your professional skills. If you're selling a product, you're not becoming an expert in how to sell that product. You don't even understand why it is people are buying or not buying from you. How do you connect with somebody if you're not if you don't know what you're connecting over?
I guess.
So that's the one side. And then how do you deal with family?
Yeah. And like friends, because in college, I did a recruiting job. So I did a recruiting job. I'm like, man, I really like this, the sales, the cold call, the drive, whatever. So I applied. Northwestern Mutual was at our career fair. So I'm like, all right, let me just apply for these guys.
Okay.
And I don't think I was going to take it, but whatever. I applied. They gave me a homework task. It's like, reach out to X amount of warm leads in your family, or warm leads in your network. That meant my parents' friends. So now I got to start firing away texts for Mr. and Mrs. Smith and all these people that I know. And they're like, oh, really? Like, Anthony, you want to come talk to me? Like, I know why you want to talk to me now. You're going to try to sell me whatever. And it felt really weird and it's uncomfortable. And I did not like that. And so I got it's the worst. So I got a ton of empathy for people who have to do that. And all these people that are texting me right now, I understand it. But you, from a perspective of someone who probably had to do that and has built it up very successful, what was that like? And how'd you navigate that to maybe get those people?
So I started just that way because I was like, this is really uncomfortable and I don't want to do this, but I need to talk to people. And I started to reach out to people. I'm like, listen, I'm not trying to sell you anything, but I am in a situation where I'm trying to get good at selling. And I'm actually not going to allow you to buy anything from me at the end of the conversation. I just need somebody to practice with.
Wow.
Can I come over? Can I talk to you a little bit about what it is that I'm doing? Even if you say yes, we're not moving forward. Like that's how serious I am about not selling you. And you had your people who were like, no, let me help you out. You know, I'll do this. I'll buy a life insurance policy. I need one anyway. Or hey, listen, I've got a couple $1,000s over here. Like, let's see what you could do. You're an investment guy anyway. Like, I trust you on the investment side. But then I got to a point where I'm like, I'm better doing this with strangers. Like, I kind of like I'm going to start to get out there and I'm going to do this with strangers. And it's funny how the people who I never even reached out to, or even the people that I did where I was like, listen, I'm not trying to sell you. 5 years, 6 years, 7 years into it, when they started to see my success, they were calling me.
Really?
They were like, hey, you never reached out. Or, hey, remember when you came by and you said you wanted to give me that spiel that you were working on? And, you know, we kind of had some laughs and we went back and forth and I gave you some feedback. Well, what are you doing now? Are you doing the same thing? No, I'm not doing the same thing. It's actually completely different. Well, what do you mean it's completely different? We're planning for business owners, and here again, I saw your Instagram. Really, can you help me? Can we have a conversation? Those people come to you when they realize that you're the expert. So I like strangers, man. Strangers are great. You know, you kind of go out there, you have a conversation, you trip over your feet, you trip over your words. Maybe you see them later on, but you don't have to see them at the Thanksgiving table, or you don't have to see them at the, and it just, people respect you for trying, but when it comes to like family and friends, it's a yucky feeling, man. I don't know how else to say it.
It's like approaching the girl at the gym, like your college gym. Like, do I want to go approach this girl right now and say what's up? I'm going to see her every single day. It feels weird. Or it's like, oh, just go to a bar and do it at night. It's probably a lot easier to do because it's like,
I would almost say your ex-girlfriend's friends. Like, I can go and I can totally screw it up with one of my ex-girlfriend's friends or one of my buddies or my buddy's sister.
Yeah.
Or I could just go out and talk to random people and figure out what it is that I want out of a relationship, right. What I really am looking for out of a person. And then if you still have that conversation with that person, the ex-girlfriend's friend or your buddy's sister, and you start to trip and figure out what it is that you want, you don't want. And then all of a sudden it's like, all right, this isn't going to be transactional. This is like real. Like I'm a little more mature. I can have a real relationship. You actually have a shot.
Yeah.
But if you burn it, you burn a whole bunch of relationships around you. If you burn it in the beginning because you don't know what the hell you're doing.
So it almost sounds like your tactic with it was just to be so radically transparent at the start and just lay it entirely out there. Like, this is what I'm doing. This is why I want to have this conversation, but I actually don't want to sell you. I just need you to know this. And then you play a really long-term game. So you think that's what the most successful people in your industry do? Or have you seen any other ways of kind of approaching that?
No, I think the people who play the numbers game, there are a lot of people in this world. You can play the numbers game. You just have to have the energy and the staying power to do it.
Okay.
It wasn't my game. My game was not, let me call as many and talk to as many people as I possibly can, knowing that I'm going to fail a whole bunch and I'm only going to succeed a little bit because I'm not a sales guy. Like, I don't really love sales. I like people.
Yeah.
but I don't like transactional sales. I don't like hearing no. It's okay to hear no. You don't want to hear no 100 times. If I have to wake up every day to find the energy to hear 80 no's and 2 yeses, I'm going to hate what I do. And it just doesn't fall in my, in kind of my personality set. I like being really targeted. Instead of the shotgun approach, I'm a rifle guy.
Okay.
I like to identify who it is that I really want to talk to and need to talk to. Almost like, I don't know if this is like before your time, but is it before anybody's time? Did you ever watch Wall Street?
Wolf of Wall Street?
No, Wall Street, the original. Charlie Sheen. No. Michael Douglas.
I haven't seen it.
There's a scene in the beginning where he's trying to build a relationship with Gordon Gekko. Gordon Gekko is the big whale that he needs to land. He shows up with cigars. Like, he's got this whole thing that he's kind of like, that is what he wants. All the guys that are on the trading floor are going after transactions. Like, what are you doing with you're never going to get that whale. Like, just keep calling, keep doing this. He ends up landing Gordon Gekko. Now, there's a whole complex story after that, but that's more my game. Like, I want to find out, like, are you the right fit? Are you somebody that I want to work with? And then I try to figure out how I can bring you value, how I can be part of your world, how we can work together, how we have commonalities. I want to be targeted in my approach.
Gotcha.
But there are a lot of guys who are successful with that shotgun, man. Just boom, 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 1, 2, 3, 4.
How would you define reciprocity? And why is that such an important concept to be familiar with and apply to your life?
I do for you, you do for me. I think that's the recipe for failure. If you're looking for some reciprocity off of everything you do, you're going to start to build resentment, not healthy relationships. It's going to be, it's going to sour a lot of things. You don't do things with the anticipation of getting something in return. Because the flip side of that is, if you're a good person and you understand, it's like general human nature. Somebody gives you something unprompted, you want to return that favor. But if there's an expectation that I'm giving you this for something, now you don't really feel that need where you're like, I want to do something in return for you.
Yeah.
So I think that ever going into something where you're expecting of other people because of reciprocity, just be careful of that, because you might find that it's going to work against you more often than it's going to work for you.
My friend in college, I actually started calling him Mr. Reciprocity. And we joke about this now. And it pissed me off when he'd do this stuff. But every time he wanted a favor from me, he would always start it off like this. He's like, it'd be a stupid thing like, hey, can I borrow your car? Or can I do this or that? He'd be like, hey man, like, I'm gonna go and do this for you, and in return, can I get this? Or can you do this for me? I'm like, bro, I'm your friend. Just like ask me for a favor. Like, stop doing this whole reciprocity game. And I just keep calling him Mr. Reciprocity. But then the other day, I met up with this guy. And I don't really know him well, but we ended up getting coffee. At the end of coffee, he gives me a gift. Like, he brought me a present and wrapped it up. I'm just like, holy cow. It caught me so off guard. I thought it was the nicest thing in the entire world. But now I associate that gift with him, and I'm remembering that for a very long time. And I'm sure that I'm going to do something down the road for him. But it was so unprompted. He didn't ask for anything.
It's awesome, right?
He wasn't in a situation where he needed something. It was just straight, here, man. Take this, please. And I thought it was the greatest thing in the entire world.
Your friend, and there's nothing wrong with I need something. What can I do for you that's going to make that possible for me? Because, let's be real. Like, if I don't have a car and I need to borrow your car, I might say to you, hey, Ant, dude, you're going to kill me, man. And it's okay if you say no. I really need to use your car. What is it? Like, I want to do something for you. If you're going to let me borrow the car, I'll do something for you. What is it that I can do for you that would make it to where you're like, yeah, dude, borrow the car. And it doesn't have to be in perpetuity. Like, I'm not saying that I'm going to do this every time, but is there some way that I'll pay you for it. I'll mow your lawn. I'll do it. Like, is there anything, are you open to that kind of relationship? And then you could be like, dude, I'll let you borrow the car this time. Please don't make it a habit though. I don't really like to let my car out. Or you might say, yeah, you know what? You borrow it as much as you want. You have to, come up to my 4th floor apartment though and take down the garbage every Tuesday because that's garbage day. So it's okay to barter a deal.
Yeah.
But when you're automatically assuming like, hey, listen, I'm going to do this. I need your car. I will do this for you. How do you know that that's of equal value in the person that you're trying to get the car from?
Right. I think what he did is he would say, hey, remember the time I did this for you?
Oh, that's even
and
worse.
by the way, I need to buy. And I'm like, Joe, shut up, bro. Like, I'm your friend. You can ask me. Of course, you can borrow my car. And so I think that's what it was that really, really annoyed me about the situation.
Yeah. Going backward. You didn't build enough credits in our lives that that you could start the conversation that way.
That's what I'm saying. But I'm very
Mr. Reciprocity.
Literally, just start calling people that. It's actually hilarious. But I'm so fascinated by all those factors of influence. What are they? I think, have you read the book? Is it called Influence? I'm sure you've read it. It's like scarcity, liking, unity, reciprocity. I wrote them down. I don't know if I'm missing any of the other ones, but yeah.
I read a lot of
Social
books.
Proof.
I didn't catch that one.
You haven't read it?
No,
this is a very well-known book. I actually haven't read it either, but they teach it.
Just called Influence?
Influence. And there's 7 factors of influence that are like the core of it in the game of life and business.
Have you ever read How to Win Friends and Influence People?
I have. Yeah, by Dale Carnegie.
Yeah.
You like that
that's
book?
a good one. Yeah, that's a good one.
What other good books for human nature, people?
Unchained by Bobby Mascia. No. What books? I'll give you a list of them. I don't know. When I feel like I'm on the spot now, I have to look at my my bookshelf. I'll have to send you a list. But I have the typical, like How to Win Friends, Influence People, From Good to Great. I'm reading a great book called Grounded. I just the art of woo. I like picking up books and just kind of seeing what other people's perspectives are and how they look and view at life, because you're not gonna. There's a couple things you could think about. Is one, you're not going to necessarily read a book and agree with everything, but there might be something that you agree with that you can take that changes your perspective. The other thing that I found about good books is when you read it the first time, you're in one spot. Don't be afraid to pick it up and read it again a second time at a later date, because you may be at a different spot where something resonates with you differently than the first time you read it and you just missed it, or you just looked at it differently. So when you find something good, like the influence that you're talking about right now, it may hit you differently in a year or 2 years from now. And you might go, man, we were talking about that. And these were the 2 things that I was really kind of caught up on, but I missed this third thing entirely.
It's a really good point. In my life, I read the book Think and Grow Rich. I think I read it as a freshman.
That's a good one.
In college. Very good one. And especially
you have to be able to.
A young age. Yeah. And so I read this book and everyone's telling me I need to read it. Yeah, you need to read this book, blah, blah, blah. So I read it, whatever. I didn't really follow the stuff. I didn't understand it. It can kind of get confusing if you don't really digest it. I picked it up a year later and I understood one statement from the book that changed my life. It's impossible to fail if you never truly give up. That simple statement from picking it up one more time is why we're having this conversation right now. Like, other than that, it would have never, ever happened. And so there's a good
book. There's a good book that's an easy read. It's like a parable. It's The Go-Getter. That's another good one. But I forget who it was that was the CEO of the Carnegie Institute. He just passed away. Had the rights to Think and Grow Rich. and I was listening to a YouTube clip, and it was actually him that said it when it resonated with me. He says he picks up the book Think and Grow Rich, and he goes, I can't even tell you how many times I've read this. It's been that many times. And the reason I keep reading it over and over and over and over and over again is because there's so many things in this book that as time goes by means something different to me today than it did to me 5 years ago, or it did to me 2 years ago, or it did to me last year. That the influence that this has given on me in my life, it's earned the respect for me to read it that many times. And I was like, that's a really good perspective, because I'm usually like, I'll read it. Maybe I'll pick it up again if I want to like skim through and find something that I'm really looking for. But that's what made me think about, all right, I don't necessarily need to read 100 books. Maybe I just read 20 books and I just have to pick the best books to read a couple of times over.
So one person that is like one of my biggest role models, Patrick Bet-David. He's like the most bullish guy in the world on reading books. He's like, you need to read. That's what separates everybody. But like you've done pretty well for yourself, and you've created some pretty successful businesses, and you're still reading. And there's a lot of people my age, that myself included, like we haven't done shit compared to you, and we will give every single excuse in the world of why we can't read a book. But do you have systems in place that allow you to carve up time, or what is your approach to finding time, even with the super busy schedule, to continuously read?
What I found my biggest success was because I was the same way. I need to read this book. And it looked at it, it's kind of like that old adage, how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? I would go, let me set an hour aside to read this book. And like clockwork, I would get a phone call, or I'd have I'd have to go check my emails, or I'd have a meeting that got scheduled, and that hour was gone. And it was like, I'm not going to get an hour back. The reality of it is just taking like 20 minutes and reading a couple of pages. That's all you need to do. I bought a bag. I carry the book around with me. Instead of picking up my phone and scrolling on Instagram, I go, you know what? I'm going to take 10 minutes. I'm just going to read 3 pages. 4 pages, 5 pages, depending on the size of the book, the size of the print, depends on how quickly I can get through the pages. And what I found is by doing those micro readings, I get through the book and I actually digest it a little bit better, because when I do sit down and I read for an hour, how many times my mind wanders to all the other shit that I have going on in my world, and I miss some of it anyway.
Yeah. How do you deal with that? The all the shit that's going on in your world, and your mind jumping to thing, it's all noise, right? There's probably a lot of noise in your life. How do you stay focused on the signal? It is literally the biggest thing that I struggle with right now, and it gives me a lot of anxiety. But what ends up happening is paralysis, because there's so many things your mind's like, do this, and then boom, you end up doing nothing.
For circumstances like that, I would say you think about yourself, and you're in your 20s.
Yeah, I'm
right?
22. Yeah.
Okay. So you're in your 20s, and life is about, how do I find time to do certain things, like maybe go to the gym, or we're going to go out tonight, or how do I find time to read the book? And then all of a sudden you start to date, and it's like, okay, those things become a little bit more difficult because you have now a somewhat significant other that you got to maybe carve some time out because you want to be able to see each other. And then all of a sudden it turns into marriage. Now you live with somebody and you're sharing tasks and you're sharing a world. And then all of a sudden you have a kid, and then it's like, oh my God, I have to worry about my kid. Where does my kid have to be? Is the kid safe? Is the kid fed? Is the kid happy? Am I doing everything that I need to do to develop that kid? So your needs for time change as that evolves. And you just start to have to live, and how do you balance that in the life that you're in? And I liken, my mind to and I don't mean to be sexist here, but I would say I'm like a mother. Moms are always worried about their kids. They're always cued in, dialed in. It's something going on. A good mom is always thinking about her kid. A good entrepreneur is always thinking about their business. There's always something, new opportunities, new shiny objects, new shit.
Yeah.
With a kid, you've got to be able to focus in and go, okay, well, I got to make sure that they have their doctor's appointments, their dentist appointments. So do they have lunch packed for school? Do they have this? And it becomes very regimented and routine. Very not too dissimilar from how you deal with life. And I like to start with like, what are the 3 things that I need to do today, come hell or high water, knowing that 100 things are going to cross my plate. What are the 3 things that I need to make sure that I get done? And I don't end my day until those 3 things are done. And they become the epicenter. It's amazing how when you focus on needing to get 3 things done, even if there are 3 minor tasks that don't really seem like that big of a deal, how much more productive you end up feeling. And that sense of feeling productive is almost, for me, it's like addictive. It's like a drug. And I've built on that over the years. So when I have something that comes in shiny and I know that somehow I need to spend some time, I will fit it into my world of like, I need to make a decision by this date. I'll put it in my calendar. This is the touch points that I need in order to make that decision. And once I can do that, I can go and I can move on to the next thing, knowing that it's at least scheduled or calendared out. So for me, it's really, I would say a crazy mind that if I can organize small chunks of it, all the other stuff is inherently going to come into my mind. But I've gotten a lot better at, like exercising. You're not going to be great at following a routine and a regimen until you start doing it, building up muscle, building up your stamina, building up your cardio. You start little and then all of a sudden you just build upon there. And now it's all right. I know when to just say no. I know when to not give up my time to other people because my time's valuable. I know that I need to shut the door and focus on the couple things that I need to focus on. I know that like if I'm not feeling it today, because I have the flexibility to do so, I may go like, I'm not showing up to work today because I know I'll be that much more productive tomorrow. It's just going to set me back. So those micro moments start to turn into something that you build around a lifestyle around.
How'd you get better at the art of saying no? Because it's not an easy skill. And I find myself a lot always thinking about people that reach out and they want to connect or grab dinner. It's like, I love to. Is that the highest ROI right now? But then I don't want to say no because I don't want to ruin the relationship. And I'm also like thinking like, I don't know. How do you get better at the art of saying no? And we'll just start with that.
So let's keep going with your example. Who's the person of mine? Where do they fit into your life? And
yeah. So for example, something that I'm doing right now is this like day in the life series where I'm going around and I'm spending a day with high performers in New York City. We did one with Eleanor Srugo, Netflix star, top luxury broker, Kenny Santucci, face of New York fitness, a couple other people, done some in Miami. I'm getting a lot of DMs now and people like, oh, like, do you want to do one with my client? Like, this is going to be good. And I'm like, I don't know what I should do. Like, do I say no and have the risk of now ruining that relationship with the PR person who can keep sending me people for a subpar person? Like, should I really be doing this? Is this going to hurt me long term? I guess I'm always thinking long term, but since long term is so uncertain, I don't know where that's going to take me. And so that's an example of like, I need to get better at saying no or yes and being certain in that, with hopes of not wrecking myself long term.
So it's interesting, right? Because it's kind of like, how did you become successful at business? And I think one of the first things you said is, when did you reach rock bottom? Most business owners don't live a life of success after success after success. There's a whole bunch of fucking failures in between that we learn from, and we have to now take that and incorporate it and calculate it into the next time that shows up in our lives. At your age, and this might be a very unpopular opinion from to a lot of your listeners or a lot of people, but I wouldn't say no to anything. I would take as many opportunities to say yes and see where the hell it brings you. And I would go into everything to say, how do I make this a success? How do I make this opportunity worthwhile?
Damn.
And you'll start to figure out when you get into circumstances where you're like, I went in with my best foot forward because I was trying to figure out what opportunity I was going to find out of this and what I was going to make successful. And the reality of it is no matter how much I look at it and how I try to, figure this out, it's just not going to work. Like this is just not, these circumstances, these events, these things, they just do not work for me. And then you're going to go into something where you're not going to feel like it's going to work for you, but you don't really have that experience, but you're going to say, I'm going to really figure out how to make this work. And then all of a sudden you're like, man, that was the fucking diamond in the rough. Why the hell did I need to do more of this. So learn, say yes. Who the hell knows? Like I always say, I walk down the street and I don't know who I'm going to meet at the next corner I'm going to turn that's going to change the trajectory of my life. And that's the way I look at everything. Like I never know what's going to happen. I've just been really good over the years of being able to identify which corners I should be turning down and which ones I should be turning down more often. Does that make sense? I know it sounds like it's probably a little wishy-washy, but in my mind, it's made sense. Does that make sense to you?
It does, and I'll tell you why this is crazy. So yesterday I filmed the day in the life with someone. His name's Corey Rowe, 1.3 million followers on Instagram, huge fitness, like gonna be a face
I
of
saw
Lululemon. That guy. Okay, so
dude's ripped.
fucking shredded. And you want to know what's crazy? You're never gonna guess this. This guy's vegan. He doesn't eat meat. For 11 years, he hasn't eaten a single piece of meat. But he's the most diced person in the world. Anyway, I get to his apartment yesterday at 5:35 in the morning. And as soon as he sits me down, we sit down and he just gets right into it. He starts getting deep. I'm like, oh my God, like I've just met this guy. What the hell is he doing? And he starts talking about this one moment that changed his life, that actually blew him up. It was this one video. He was making content, not a lot of love. But then his friend came up to him someday. He's like, hey, let me go record you in the rain right now. And you're going to walk past the camera. The shirt's going to show your abs, your physique, whatever. And Corey's like, I never, ever would post anything like this. It's a little weird, but there's some sort of inspiration and a voice saying you just need to do this. That video ended up getting 15 million views and changed the course of his life.
That's awesome.
Also yesterday, I met Dr. Gabrielle Lyon. So this girl has been on like Diary of a CEO, also 1 million followers, whatever. She gave me and Corey the same talk about listening to the little voice in your head and acting on inspiration. I'm reading a book called The Surrender Experiment. That's literally about the same thing. Just like saying yes in life and seeing where life takes you and not try to control everything. So it's absurd. This is like 5 things. And you just brought this up too. 5 things in the past week, all about inspiration. Say yes. Just kind of go with the flow sometimes and see where life takes you.
I try to not live my life with regret. That's the one thing that I have just been really, really specific in my mind is everything that I've done has led me to where I am now, which is a really good life. If I think about the one thing that I might have done differently, there is only one thing that I might have done differently, and it was in my 20s. I was so dead set on being professionally successful that I never went with the flow of life. I did not have that mindset of like, say yes, just do it, say yes, go experience it, say yes. And the reality of it is if you have any intentions on getting married and having kids, your ultimate freedom, even though you don't feel like it, you may not have, your listeners may not have the money or the liquidity to go and like do what, figure out like how to say yes to things that you know are going to live with you forever and put you into rooms that you've never thought you'd be able to be in, put you in circumstances that you may never ever relive again, because that time is fleeting and it's short. And then you become a real hardcore adult, and then you got to be professional and figure it out. So in that process of saying yes, you're going to learn again what to say no to, what works, what doesn't work, what you like, what was maybe inflated in your mind that would have been really super cool. if you just imagined it for your entire life versus like it really was a pain in the ass and I didn't enjoy it as much as I thought I would. But you don't know that stuff unless you do it.
Wait, what did you do in your 20s then? You try to control everything. What'd that look like?
I was fixated on success. I was the guy who was determined to make $1 out of 15 cents. Like I've grown up always with a hustler mentality. When I went to college and I graduated from college, I had this mindset of I'm going to climb the corporate ladder and I'm going to be super successful. Like I said, I'm working, I'm at grad school, I'm taking the CFA, which is a 3-year financial, basically test. That just took a tremendous amount of energy, effort, and time away from my personal time. I was not the free spirited, open minded person. Maybe that would have led me to a different path. Maybe I wouldn't have become that successful. Maybe I would have kind of floated a little bit. I don't know. That's why I don't like to live with regret. But I just thinking about that, saying yes more often than saying no at this point in your life, and how that can open up opportunities for you and also teach you along the way of what to say no to.
Did you say no to a certain opportunity at that time that you wish you would have done?
Oh yeah, traveling, living in other places. I mean, it was always, now I think back and I go, how great would it have been if we just got on a plane and did it?
Really?
Like it didn't matter. It wasn't that much money. Like I was always worried about socking away money and putting in my account and making sure that I was financially secure, and that probably paid off for me. But there are some times where I look back and I go like, man,
Well,
that could have been cool.
what I would ask is this, like if you were the free flowing spirit in your 20s and that took you down a path where we're not having a conversation right now. You're not very financially successful. You're fine. You're not financially successful. You didn't write a book. Nobody will listen to you, but you were a little bit more free spirited and it took you to a less financially and credibility and authority status driven life. Would you have still taken that path in your 20s?
I don't know. My mindset today, the trajectory that I've been, the experiences that I've had, the things that I've accomplished, and I'm very happy with where I am. And that came from a series of events. It wasn't one specific thing in my life. It was a series of events that led me to marrying the woman that I married, having the kids when I had the kids, buying the house when I bought the house, and where I moved the house, and the business that I left from my family business to when I left it and starting all over again. And like, if I didn't go through all that, I wouldn't be where I am right now. But who would know? Like, if I did that, where I ended up, like maybe I find a different set of things that made me happy and proud of what it was that I accomplished. I don't know. It's world's, biggest question, I guess, in my head.
Isn't that interesting? I assume you believe everything happens for a reason.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I've had too many things in my life where, because of prior experiences, it almost led me to be prepared for what I had in front of me. And that happening once or twice is yeah, okay. It sounds about right, but it's happened a lot.
What's the best example of it?
Um, the best example is me leaving my family and my family business to get into finance, which turned into deep understanding of estate planning, taxation, all types of investments, understanding business ownership and operation at a different level, fixating on like the general components of how to structure things correctly. And then when my father became terminal and he passed, and the few years prior to that, because he didn't talk to me we didn't talk to each other for the first year after I left. But then 2 or 3 years before he passed away, we had the best relationship ever. And it was because we almost became peers. My dad was very money motivated also. And, his whole thing was like, you don't ask me for anything. You don't need anything. I see that you're independently successful. It's very different than a lot of the other relationships that I have around me, kind of like your buddy, Mr. Reciprocity. He had a lot of Mr. Reciprocities around him. And we had our closest relationship ever. And when he got sick and diagnosed with cancer, and then when he became terminal, all of the things that I've been through with clients, with building my business, with the additional designations that I had gone through, the clients that I have worked with, me coming in to step in and take over that and restructure and reorganize that, there was no better breeding or training ground. And for somebody who doesn't have connection to what it is that I do, you're lost. Like my aunt, if she were to take that and run with it, or if prior me, who didn't do what I do now, had to take that and run with it, I wouldn't have been like a fraction of success off of that transition. So that's probably the biggest example.
Yeah. I think it's a really good message, and just surrendering to the moment and trying to see what pops up into life and not trying to control. I have a horrible need to control a lot of stuff in my life. I don't know if you deal with this. I feel like a lot of successful and people, do you struggle with that? Like, you need to control everything?
It used to plague me. It used to plague me tremendously.
It's horrible.
And there is a weaning process, and that's a little bit freeing. But you've got to be ready to kind of give in to that process, and you have to have the right people around you with the right communication, the right transparency, the right amount of trust, the right amount of structure. It's something that I had to build in, and it took me a lot of time. And I don't have this, I still have that need of control to some degree on certain things, but I've been able to relinquish a lot of that in a healthy way. But it's hard, man. It is not easy.
So step one for someone that wants to loosen up a little bit, what would you say to start doing?
I would say, and that's a good question. And it's in my book. I believe everybody has their, and not that I believe, it's a fact. You have shit that you're really good at, and you have things that you might be good at, or you might not be that good at, or you might be really good at it, but there's a whole group over here that drains your energy. And there are things over here that you're really good at that that brings you positive energy. Like you feel like you could do it all day, every day, over and over again. When you have to, leave the office or go home or do so, or you're almost upset that you have to do it because you feel like you're in that groove. You are just like flowing, and it is awesome. If you can start to identify where in your life those things that you're doing kind of fit in each category, and I would say your life, because when you start to become successful and make money, there are some things on a personal level that maybe you just don't want to do anymore, that you find somebody else to take over. But that's the same thing in a professional. How do you find in your professional world the person who's the yin to your yang, so you can keep doing the really good stuff that you do with a high energy, and then you can pass and delegate off some of those other things to people who that's their good energy.
Mhm.
When I started to find people who were really committed and excited about the things that I don't like to do, it was that much easier for me to relinquish control.
What was that for you?
I am a very big strategist. I'm like the visionary leader. Everything that you Kobe test, the culture index disc, I am very high A. I'm a driver. I am a big picture guy. I can go into the minutia. I don't like to live in consistent minutia. So I go in and I figure out something, and I have a process for it. I'm not the guy who's going to continue to do that process day in and day out. I have to find somebody who will do that process. So when it comes to my profession, just to simplify it, right? I love doing financial planning. I don't like doing data entry. I don't like running scenarios. I like getting from the people what it is that they're trying to accomplish and doing the big strategy on the difficult stuff. The day-to-day maintenance stuff, I have no interest. Investment philosophy. How do we do things? How do we reinvest? What does the velocity of money look like? When are we moving money from here to here? When are we deciding on, different allocation types or tactical planning for people? I love that. Tell me to go push buttons and reallocate each portfolio. Shoot me. I'll do it. I hate it. It doesn't bring value to me. That's not my level of excitement and entertainment.
Yeah.
And the obvious stuff like admin stuff and anything that has to do with, keeping any sort of operational structure. I don't want to be in the day to day. I want to be in the grand strategy. I want to move the boat further, faster, bigger, better, find the right people.
Yeah.
That's where I live in my happy spot.
I know we got like 15 more minutes left. So as we get to this last part of the reason why I build out this page day in their life and I get to spend the days with high performers, it's the most fascinating thing in the world for me because you get to hear people or maybe I'll read your book and I'll get inside your mind, but to really observe and shadow and see you operate and communicate and everything under the boat of that is fascinating and you can soak it in very good. And so in your business, I know you're part of, I think Tiger 21, some exclusive clubs. You work with probably pretty wealthy individuals. The wealthiest people you know, what's one thing that they obsess over that the average person would never typically think about?
It is that never-ending thirst for knowledge and being better. It's the most successful people have in my experience have been some of the most humble people. They ask the most questions. They want to understand how it is that you think about it. And that's not to say that they don't have a strong opinion, but they don't lead with their strong opinion. They lead by asking questions and being inquisitive. And I made that comment before. Be interested, not interesting. I think that is a powerful thing in the process of, because hey, listen, you can go and you could spend as many days as you want with the most high-powered, successful people. And the reality of it is you're not going to execute the way that they execute because they don't know all of the things to stay away from. You're just looking for all the opportunities to go toward. Most of the dangers are hidden in the landmines that you can't see. But if you've experienced stepping on landmines before, you know where they are, you know where they're hidden, you know what to expect, you know what it feels like, you have that first gut intuition of inclination because you've been there, you've done that, and you know how to avoid it. So I think that as you're learning, you're in the right spot. You're asking a lot of questions, and just keep those successful people. They just ask a ton of questions.
Yeah, and it almost sounds like what you said earlier. Like they just say yes because that's how you experience, and you know where the landmines are. You just keep saying yes to stuff and doing.
Reframe that. I think I missed it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, of course. So what you said is, was it like, what's one thing they obsess over? And you mentioned like landmines. Like they know where the landmines are because they've done this stuff and had experience in it. So they're not going to make the mistake that sets a ton of people back just because they just keep doing and they're constantly doing.
Well, I think what sets them back is their obsession to always learn and be better. And where I think that the asking of the questions comes in is when you're more interested than you are interesting and you're asking the questions, you can kind of get to the heart of where they're what they're thinking instead of making those assumptions. And that's been my experience. most successful people are just very humble, and they like to ask and be more interested in what it is that is out there that they don't know.
It's actually a great point. What about flaws? Personality or character flaws that you common themes that you've seen in the most successful people?
Flaws?
Yeah.
Self-importance. I think that when you start to feel like you're a little self-important, and that's part of finding the right partner and finding the right people who you surround yourself with, is they kind of help keep you grounded. And I'm not saying keep you down, right? Because you don't want people to pull you down and make you feel like you're not worthy, or um, you're not headed in the right direction, or questioning your leadership. But people who can kind of bring you back and go like, all right, you're coming off like a little bit of a douche, and you got to stop. And that reset or that regrounding, I think, is important. So
Is that your wife for you, or do you have, like, colleagues that do that?
I have colleagues that do that. I have my wife for me. Sometimes when I feel like I'm a little too important, I'm a little too big for my britches. That gets nipped in the bud quickly.
I bet. That's actually hilarious. What's this? So I wasn't familiar with, the Tiger 21 club until I did a little bit of research after, but it seems like it's a very exclusive club, good for networking, like the Founders Club. I think that's another thing in New York. But like, what's that like? What's it like being a part of that? What types of people have you met there?
um, it's I'm how did he know about Tiger 21? Oh, you did?
Oh,
Okay.
is this
Come on, this is like the skulls. Like this is like the stuff you don't talk about. But it's it's kind of like if you're familiar with young entrepreneurs or the entrepreneur organization or Vistage, or it's a group of business owners, successful people who are just trying to learn from one another. And I think that depending on, it doesn't matter whether it's, Tiger 21 or it's Vistage or EY. I think surrounding yourself with people who you respect, who you can learn from. It's about putting yourself in bigger rooms than you are to get bigger and to constantly expand. Because very similar to the sense of, like, what you asked before. In most successful people, they have a continuous thirst for knowledge and learning. And you also want to be around people who are going to push you, or who are going to inspire you to to keep growing. And life changes so quickly. Technology changes. Things change with laws and regulations. And the more you feed yourself and put yourself in front of people who are going to help to keep you at the top of your game, the longer you're going to stay at the top of your game. And the less regret you're going to have on whether or not you could have accomplished something, or could have maybe thought about something a little bit differently. Because, again, going back to the ego and thinking you're the smartest person, and you're just there's nobody who can rival you. You're going to miss a lot in that mentality. You're going to miss a lot of opportunities. You're going to miss a lot of points of failure. Because if you know more than anybody, it really just means you're in the wrong group of people, or you're just in the wrong mindset. So that's what those groups do for me. Being in a higher level with a group like Tiger 21, people who are super, super, super successful, you have to have a certain. You can't. They don't let just anybody in. So the conversations are a lot different.
Do you feel like people in that club, because I feel like everybody's curious, right? You've been in conversations where someone asks you a question and you're like, "Yeah, let me say my thing about me, but I want to hear more about you." Is it ever like, "No, no, no, let me hear about you. No, 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 let me hear about you." You ever deal with that there, or people? What's that like?
A lot of that. You get a lot of, I said to you, I'm a driver, right? I like thinking about things in different ways and strategizing. In some groups, people think I'm crazy. Why would you do that? Don't take that kind of risk. Why would you even think about approaching things that way? Why? And what ends up happening is you start to have to justify what it is that you're doing.
Yeah.
You may get a little fatigue in that. You then may get a little bit of head trash where you don't move forward. Whereas when you start to get into the room with really successful people, they don't ask why. They go, how are you going to do that? How are you going to approach it? Here are some ideas. I have some crazy ideas over here too. You want to try to tackle them together? And the open-mindedness and the collaboration for, like, again, life is not zero-sum game. You can be in rooms where people think if you're winning, they're losing. When you're in rooms where everybody feels like knowing you and knowing each other means we're all winning and we can all figure out ways to win together, that's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
There's a lot of energy in that.
That's interesting. That's such a good point. The whole thing about why. Last question I have. Let's just say your book erased, social media presence erased, like everything. But you had 30 seconds to deliver a message to change someone's life. What would that message be?
That message would be, life is really long. And one of the basic things with human beings is communication and healthy communication. And build and establish your network, have healthy communication, be your true self. Don't try to get one over on people because karma's a bitch. It'll come right back to you in spades, but rather try to give as more than you can get. And you'll be surprised that the more and more you give, the more and more opportunity you'll have to go down the road that you've always envisioned yourself going down. And that doesn't mean you're going to get more. It just means that maybe more opportunity is going to come your way. More opportunities for you to be happy, to succeed, and to flourish. And it's not about what you know, it's about who you know. And that old adage will always stay true.
Well said. Well, that being said, I think you got a book. Do you wanna announce the name of your book one more time, just so we can all hear it?
So it's Unchained, the raw truth about entrepreneurship, family business, and life balance.
You wanna put it in the
And
camera? It's a little bit off. Money.
it's on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, all of the places where you would buy a book. It pre-sales now and will come out in hard copy delivered to your doorstep by the end of February. You can always go to bobbymascia.com to also order it. And it's a story about the last 27 years of my professional career, family business. It's about relationships. It's about the things that I've done and learned along the way that has made me successful. And hopefully my stories will help to shorten your path and will change the way that you play your game, and that you'll get a little bit more out of life, because success is hard earned, but durable wealth is designed. And this book is what it's all about.
Bobby, thank you, sir. Gross Potential Community says thank you. This is a fantastic conversation.
You got it, bud. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate you.
Absolutely.
And I love what you're doing. Keep going. Keep doing it.